So today we're going to be talking about a story that has actually been floating around on the internet for a couple of days now, but I didn't rush to cover it or anything like that because I don't want to talk about Nintendo Switch 2 related stuff every day. And this indeed does potentially involve a Nintendo Switch 2. And it having that 2 meaning a little bit more than what you would think it meets with the eye initially. Now, this is involving a patent. Most of our stuff for the Nintendo Switch 2 that we've talked about this far on this channel has been stuff that's been, behind closed doors at events like Gamescom. Allegedly, there was a Switch 2 type computer that was running programs and games that would be available on this upcoming system for Nintendo. There's been some rumors, speculation, leaks, nothing that we can look at though with sort of concrete evidence and be like, oh, well, maybe this is actually a thing because we have this to look at. It's all just been going off the word of other individuals, which there's nothing wrong with that because a lot of times these individuals are right, but sometimes they're wrong. But with the patent, you have a little bit more meat on your bones, and that's what we're talking about in today's video, is a new patent that was discovered. Now, let's go ahead and preface this by saying all because a patent was discovered for something, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a product that comes to the marketplace. Nintendo patent stuff all of the time, and some of those things never come to fruition. Nintendo also designs things like the Wii Vitality sensor and showcases them at different events, and then that never releases. Nintendo also designs things that come out in one region but never see the light of day in another region, such as the 64DD for the Nintendo 64, because nobody really wanted that. Nobody really cared about the 64DD. They wanted kind of the next iteration of Nintendo's console. However, I do have to think back to something that we recently covered a lot on this channel, and that's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, because before we got sort of the unveiling of that game, we actually learned about new gameplay mechanics via patents that were discovered, and a lot of those patents were actually in the game, such as like the floating down mechanic and being able to shoot stuff, floating down at like a fast degree, kind of when you're going from the sky islands to the ground floor. Like that stuff was actually in the game, and that was stuff that was shown to us via patents from Nintendo themselves. So I'm not quick to write off things, but this one seems a little bit far-fetched, and it seems a little bit sort of outside of the realm. So we're taking a look here at an article done by Game Rant, and they basically covered this a couple days ago. More and more websites are starting to cover it, and you look at this and you're like, what the hell is this? And what I alluded to at the start of the video, the Nintendo Switch 2, could it have more meaning than we are initially led to believe? So let's read their sort of synopsis of this device, and then we'll go over it, and I'll give you guys my thoughts. The recent Nintendo patent looks an awfully lot like a 3DS, but the device can split in half. The two separate halves can communicate with each other wirelessly, allowing two gamers to play together on the same device. While connected, the two halves play together like a DS or a 3DS. Interestingly enough, there is also a touchscreen on the outside of the console, which allows gamers to interact with the handheld even when it's closed. So this is something that has like a clamshell design, and when you look at this first picture here, you can see this is the system when it's closed. I know this kind of looks a bit like a zipper, but I think it's just kind of like the way that this is actually like sort of designed and the way that this arrow goes into here. But this is essentially the outside of the system, but there's a screen on it, and this is actually a touch screen. And then when you scroll down here, you see the system itself, and yes, it looks almost identical to like a 3DS. You have a big top screen, a bottom screen, but the difference is this actually becomes two into one. You could split these screens, and like it says here, allows you to play on the same device. So splitting this would actually be like two devices in one, because of the fact that you can have somebody, in the same room as you play with this other half while you play with one half. It's a very interesting mechanic. And upon first inspection, it's easy to look at this and be like, well, this is just simply a patent. Maybe, because obviously, let's get some things out of the way here. There's never going to be another dedicated Nintendo handheld, at least not in my lifetime, I don't think, but who knows how long my lifetime is going to be. But I don't feel like Nintendo is going to go back to the two platform system, especially because they used to have a dedicated handheld division, and they of course have merged that with their home console division. So that would seem like a bit of a step backward. Could this simply be just a patent, just to patent an idea so that somebody else doesn't come along and take it? And yeah, you know, it could be something as simple as that. But I can't help but feel, and I'm not even necessarily saying that this is what the system is going to be, but I can't help but feel like maybe there's something a bit more to this, because when you ask someone, you know, ask the average Nintendo Switch owner, what do you want out of a Nintendo Switch 2 as far as a new system is concerned, as far as new features are concerned? I think most people, you know, 90% of them would say, don't rock the boat. You know, keep with what is working. Having this hybrid mentality, having this system that is basically, you know, a handheld system, but also a home system, you know, maybe just improve the Joy-Cons, have a bigger and potentially better screen on it, have some more features built into the operating system of the device. Backwards compatibility is something else that's always going to be there. But I don't think many people would say, hey, let's bring back dual screen gaming. That's the move for the Nintendo Switch 2. We need to bring back dual screen gaming. Now, dual screen gaming does have its benefits and its drawbacks. I definitely love the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo 3DS. I had a PSP at the time that I had a DS. I played my DS more. I thought the games were better on that system and it had a better battery life. I loved the 3DS. I went out and bought it on day one at a midnight launch at a Walmart with my buddy, and we thought it was gonna be like a party there, and it was just me and him hanging out in this Walmart that was like a half hour away from my house. But we played that thing all night long, and I really love the library of the 3DS too. You could do some very interesting stuff with that, you know, having a constant map on the bottom portion of the screen or a touch portion. There was a lot of different things you could do with it. But on the home console side of things, when we're talking about full retail price games, the only instance that we've ever had of something with the dual screen is, of course, the Wii U. And when you look at the Wii U, a lot of games did not really care about that secondary screen. There were some cool stuff there. Some third-party games even went above and beyond. Games like Batman Arkham City Armored Edition. I still think that's the best way to play the game because of the inclusion of the gamepad. Deus Ex Machina, another great game that was a third-party game that utilized the touchscreen very well. Even the Splinter Cell game I thought was pretty good. But when you have a first-party company and a first-party title such as Nintendo releasing a game like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze and literally doing nothing with that bottom screen, does that really instill confidence in this dual screen marketplace? Like, I feel like dual screens worked for a handheld, but maybe not for a more traditional sit-down gaming experience. Now, all of this could be said for naught because, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't think that this is the direction that Nintendo is going to go into, but I can't help but feel, I can't help but think of one quote that Nintendo always gives. We want to find new and exciting ways for players to experience our games. And the easy thing would be to say, hey, you know what? Nintendo's just going to make a beefier Switch. They're just going to make the Switch, you're going to make it beefier, and everyone's going to be happy. But that's not the Nintendo way. It hasn't been the Nintendo way for a long time. You could simply argue that the last time we saw it was the NES to the Super NES, maybe a Super Nintendo to the N64 as well, as they both did use cartridges, but cartridges were kind of an outdated medium at that time, at least for the cartridges that we got. But even giving you guys, you know, Super NES to N64, like you could kind of say it about the GameCube to the Wii, except the Wii was its own entity. Of course, you had all these Wii games with the motion controls. It was a completely different system than the GameCube as far as mostly playing the games was concerned. Just from a hardware level, it was different. The sure shot, the money, just is with a standard Nintendo Switch. But when I look at this, I can't help but feel that maybe they will try something completely different and completely radical, because that's the Nintendo way. It's always been the Nintendo way. I feel like it's always going to be the Nintendo way because they don't like to rest on their laurels. They like to try and, for better or worse, make things that are completely different and maybe things that you aren't expecting to be expected. And you could say, well, the DS to the 3DS that you just talked about, that was kind of the same thing. You had a 3D screen on it. Like, that was the gimmick for that system. I don't know. It makes absolutely no sense for them to go in this direction and bring back dual screens. But sometimes the things that make the absolute least amount of sense are what end up happening. And I can't help but feel like there's going to be something funky with this system. Whether or not it's based on this patent, you know, more than likely not. But then again, maybe I wouldn't be super surprised if it was, because, I mean, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo at the end of the day. Let me know what you think of this, though, in the comments section down below. Is dual screen gaming needed again? Do we need this again? Like, I definitely like some of the things about it. But then you got stuff like Star Fox Zero that focused so hard on that dual screen. And while I was able to adjust to it and I liked it for what it was, like, so many people hated it because it made things so convoluted. It includes extra work to have a secondary screen with stuff like this. And I feel like a lot of third-party developers could be potentially turned off by porting their games and needing to do something potentially with the second screen. Or they could just be like Nintendo with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze and be like, oh, we're not even going to use the second screen. Don't worry about it. Let me know what you think of this patent in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.